Hello everyone, Asmo here, and today I'm going to show you how to make your first 1000 exalts, or at least how I did it yesterday, because I did a fresh start. I deleted everything from my stash tabs. I deleted 30 million gold and I unspec'd all my Atlas points, and then I made a brand new witch character and started solo from scratch. So if you're starting late and just now joining the league, you have no currency, no leveling items, no gold, don't worry, it's actually as easy as ever to get started. And in the middle of the league, the strategies are a little bit different than at the very start of the league, but in many ways it is actually easier now. So let me show you what I did to go from 0 exalts to over 1000. Starting as witch has the great benefit of not needing your level 4 spirit gem, because you can simply use your spirit for minions, and knowing that due to the attribute requirements, some of the endgame builds actually want really low level gems allowed me to be aware that I can make a ton of guaranteed money really early. I sold my level 4 spirit gem for 44 exalts as soon as I got it, and I bought a bunch of cheap leveling gear. I found my own +1 to minion scepter and helmet, as well as movement speed boots, so all I needed was a +2 minion mace, +1 amulet, Leercast with spirit, and a necromantle. I sold some low level gems and lesser runes, and I ended Act 1 with 50 raw exalts. I also started saving blacksmith whetstones and armor scraps, because I knew that armor scraps sold 2 to 1 exalt and whetstones sold I think 6 to 1 exalt, so it was better to keep them until Act 4. Why Act 4? Because right at the beginning of Act 4 you unlock the currency exchange. It makes it so much easier to trade that I would highly recommend rushing through the first 3 acts as quickly as you can and only trading to pick up the necessary gear to make you go faster, and leaving any larger trading until you finish Act 3. In Act 2, I sold another spirit gem that is a guaranteed drop from Keth. I bought a cheap jewel for my character, I ascended as a lich, and I swapped to frost mages just for fun. And with the spirit gem sale and found currency that I just simply found from the ground, I ended up Act 2 with 88 exalts. In Act 3, I bought a +2 scepter, upgraded my boots to 20% movement speed, and I found and sold a white stellar amulet. White stellar amulets, forked spears, heavy belts, these are what is known as chancing bases. People use chance orbs on normal white items of the right base in order to try their luck at getting one of the expensive uniques that are tied to that base. And that's why you should make sure that your loot filter highlights the expensive bases such as stellar amulet. They are not worth much at the beginning of the league, but 6 weeks in, people have lots of currency to gamble, and providing them with the resources to do so is very lucrative. So I sold it for I think 90 exalts, so keep an eye out for these items while you're leveling. And with that sale, I finished Act 3 with 187 exalts and a lot of quality currency. And as soon as I got to Act 4, I converted everything at the currency exchange and ended up with 233 exalts after the first 3 acts. But how do we get to 1000? There are countless ways, and it all depends on the markets and the time of the league. First, I tried open prefix flipping rings. What does that mean? I searched for decent rings on the trade that had open affixes and potential to become more expensive. I bought a few of the cheapest ones, paying an average of 5 exalts each. I exalt slammed them, and I got one good ring that sold for 3 divines. I also resold a few of them for 5x each, and I ended up making a nice profit. I also tried doing the same with energy shield helmets and boots, but that was not very lucrative because these markets were already too saturated. There are too many of these items on the market, so I would have to get something exceptionally good to make profit. And if you try a strategy and it doesn't seem to work, simply move on to something else. You will not be always successful, but that's okay. Just don't let it stop you from trying and learning more about the game. While I had about 300 exalts, I realized that this is the perfect amount to actually flip the stellar amulets. Remember the expensive white base that we found earlier? They were selling for anywhere between 60 to 90 exalts. I looked at the Forbidden Trove Discord and people were buying them in bulk for 1 divine per 3 amulets. And with divines sitting at around 320 exalts, this was just free money. I would buy 3 amulets for about 250 exalts total and sell them for a divine, making about 70 exalts profit each time. I had a live search running while looking for other opportunities, and I just kept trading them them over time. I also realized that well-rolled maps were selling for a lot of currency, and considering that they are very cheap to craft, I decided to try. So I spent about 300 exalts buying maps, rolling them with augmentations, regals, which are very cheap as well, exalts and val orbs that are also cheap, and then sorting them by different modifiers. And in the end, I have sold some expensive T16 maps for like 400 exalts, and these maps had like experience on them. Also sold a few other decent maps, so I made a profit. But this strategy would actually have worked much better if I had a lot more resources and I did it in a big bulk, because buyers don't really look for lots of different maps. They look for a lot of the same map. So unless you can provide a big bulk, you're going to have a hard time selling these maps quickly. And an important thing to note is that I made a profit, but I also ended up with a bunch of maps, augmentations and regals and val orbs remaining. So that's what usually happens when you decide to craft and trade. You buy materials, you use them to craft, you make profit, and then you are typically left with a bunch of resources and unsold items on top of the profit as well. So using all of these methods, I managed to get over 1,400 exalts right after finishing Act 3. And on top of that, I also bought myself godlike leveling gear with +8 to all minion skills and capped resistances, and I'm just gonna breeze through the rest of the game. So as you can see, you can start late and still do very well by taking advantage of the late stage markets that value convenience and the right low level items. And if you were doing this at League Start, you'd probably do something else, like crafting entry level gear that would be in high demand in the first few days before the market gets saturated with them. But there are always opportunities to make currency, no matter when you're playing and no matter what build you're playing. If you learned something from this video, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more Path of Exile content. See you next time.